Hey everyone, Yan Zhao here tonight for the second time. Mike Murphy, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good. How are you, man? Thanks for having me on again.
Oh, great to have you back. All right, so the last time you were here, we were talking about Long Shadow, your pulp fiction novel.
hmm
2/3 of
And
the way there.
yeah, and we're almost there.
All right, so in the intervening time, um, where this whole process of you know making something, getting it out there, has it led to any new inspirations or for where to take Long Shadow maybe after this campaign?
Yeah. So, um, I'm happy that we've turned a lot of people onto the concept of pulp, and I'm more than happy to keep producing the series as a pulp series, indefinitely.
Mhm.
But I have had a fair amount of people be like, "Yeah, that's great, man, but we want comics." Uh, So yeah, like the idea for a Long Shadow comic is definitely, I wouldn't say on the back burner, but maybe the middle burner.
Okay.
Like there's some big obligations we have over this year and next year, but maybe 2024-ish. We'll see.
Hmm. And so if you so this one is, I believe the phrase you used was illustrated novel,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So if the next one is going to be a comic, is it going to be like a continuation of the same story, or will this? Or are you thinking like, no, it's going to be a different adventure?
No, so I'll keep think of it. I'm still deciding, but think of it basically like, like there's just off the top of my head, there's the Game of Thrones novels, and then there's
Ah,
the Game of Thrones comic adaptations.
oh, okay.
I would consider doing an adaptation, or possibly just have the comics be their own stories that kind of fit in between the cracks. Because
Mm.
I don't know if I brought this up last time that we were hanging out, but I ideally see Long Shadow being a set of three trilogies over different time spans. And so, between each of those trilogies, there's a lot of time to play around with, and the comic could be good for giving, fresh stories set in between those different eras.
Uh, that's a pretty interesting idea.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, I think, especially since it's like kind of a different medium, but kind of not.
Right,
It has the continuity, but it, in some ways, I think the different mediums makes it easier to keep those stories separate.
right. Yeah, and like the time jumps are so substantial that, we wouldn't necessarily have to worry about what happened, like, in the comics versus, like the second trilogy or the third trilogy, like, because again, we're talking about like a pure fantasy trilogy for the first one, and then kind of a modern fantasy for the second, and then for the third one it would go full like Warhammer 40K, we'd be in the distant future. So, you know,
Oh,
that's
very
that's
cool.
a that's a lot of time to play with between each of those trilogies.
Hmm. So, as you're making your tour, have you found through interactions either with the people on the shows or with people in the chat, have you found that they've had some good ideas for you too, where you're like, let me write that down there?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, everybody, I mean, especially the artists, everybody wants to draw Long Shadow, which is,
Oh, cool.
flattering. Yeah. Um, like especially when I was putting together the idea for the stretch goal of the world guide, and having it filled with
Hmm.
illustrations. I thought I thought that I was really going to have to work hard to convince some of my artist friends, and pretty much every single person that I asked signed up. Um,
Nice.
and yeah, like as the campaign has gone on, there's been a decent amount of people, everyone from Sim to I could go on. Like everyone's into the concept of Long Shadow. So, if we do head down that road of like doing either comic adaptations or unique stories just for comics, I don't think we're going to have a problem nailing down like a rotating team of artists.
Cool. Um, so, as an indie creator,
Mhm.
you're a lot closer to your, um, I don't know if end users is quite the right term, but to the fans who actually read your stuff, like as opposed to like a George R. R. Martin. Like
Right,
there's no way for you as a fan to practically have interactions
right,
with him.
right.
Um, so since as an indie, you get more interaction with people. Do you find that sort of shapes how you write stories in the future?
Um, I mean, I definitely take feedback into account. But that isn't to say that I necessarily tailor every single thing I do to reader feedback. But if there's something that clearly isn't working for the readers, it'll certainly factor in there somewhere somehow. Again, like as we've been talking, the biggest example is, while we are finding our audience step by step, and we're getting closer to the goal, there's the fair percentage of the readership base out there who are just straight up saying, "I would like this to be a comic."
Hmm.
And that's where I went from like, no, it's just going to be the books to, okay, well, enough people have said that that's what they want, so I'll try to make it happen.
And do you ever have any opportunities, like, or have you felt the need to, like, before something is finished, it goes to print.
Mhm.
You're on these kind of shows. Do you ever say like, oh, maybe I should make a little change in the current project as opposed to upcoming ones?
Oh yeah, man.
Or
Yeah, 100%. Nothing is solidified until it's off to the printer. Like we were making changes to The Gods Fear Me like up until the day that I sent off the PDF file to Kablam. So yeah, like be it from the creative team, be it something that I think of, like
Mhm.
the biggest stage where we do edits and revisions is in the lettering. Um, because once you get like the art back from whoever the artist is, a lot of a lot of your words kind of become unnecessary and redundant because the artist has conveyed so much of that through the writing.
Mhm.
So like my biggest like editing revision phase is once I get the art, and I just strip so much of my dialogue and caption work out of the
Ah.
pages because they're just not needed.
Hmm. So have you been? I'm just kind of curious. In the indie movement, do
Mhm.
you see people sticking with sites like Indiegogo, Kickstarter, or do you think that people are eventually going to say, "No, we're not going to use those anymore"?
Yeah, I see. I mean that's kind of fast becoming the hot topic for the year, right?
Yeah.
Um, like with everything going on in my personal life, I haven't had a chance to see what Ethan's revealed of that whole thing that he's building. And you've got people like Eric July being like, I'm just going to sell this on my website instead of crowdfunding necessarily.
Mhm.
And I don't know, like I like I mean, look, obviously if I get to the point where our audience is 5, 10, 15,000 people deep, 20,000 people deep, obviously at that point crowdfunding becomes unnecessary and you can just pay up front for the printing and production of the work, and you're reasonably sure that you're going to make the money back in sales once you can actually sell the product. I would consider it at that point, but it's necessary for me at the stage that my wife and I are at as publishers. Like I'd say we're small to mid tier at best,
Mhm.
and we really can't. Like Long Shadow is a good example. If the project doesn't fund, the book doesn't exist. Um,
Yeah.
and I can write it, but I can't then pay Jeff to like produce all the interiors and ask Eric for help with lettering revisions and stuff like that, even though it's mostly text, but still like I might want him to go in and like just do a pass and make sure the book looks visually appealing.
Hmm.
Um, I can't do that without the crowdfunding model. So crowdfunding itself, I don't see going anywhere for people that are in my position. But as far as expanding to other platforms, my main concern with what we're building with this new CG platform is I I want to make sure that the readership base continues to grow and not
Yeah.
contract. Um, because like advertising a campaign, especially if you're a part of CG, advertising a campaign is difficult enough because you want people to know, hey, I'm a part of CG. This is a product that's funded through CG, but you also want to like rope new people in too because these books are
Right.
supposed to be for everybody. That's the whole point. And that's already kind of an uphill battle, but then you factor in like, and I need you to sign up for another crowdfunding platform.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's a couple of people in there who are like, no, I'm not doing that.
For sure. For sure. Yeah. Yeah. I was kind of wondering. I definitely agree with you, especially on the small creator side. Like,
Hmm.
especially if you're just entering the game,
Right.
how can you afford the thousands of dollars it will take you to produce that first comic? I mean, even with crowdfunding, a lot of
Yeah.
first timers are, just happy to break even
Yeah.
just to get some work out there to set it up for the next one and hopefully make some money on that.
Yeah. And, like life happens. Like even
Mhm.
breaking even isn't an option sometimes.
Yeah.
Like, without like going into like specifics and naming names, with The Gods Fear Me, that book was as late as it was because stuff happened to people during the production of it because of the pandemic. And I know I hate that
Yeah.
excuse too, but it is what it is. And then when the book was actually done, our original letterist just kind of disappeared off the face of the earth. And
Oh,
so the money that I invested in him was just, it was gone. And
yeah.
I had to then save up and pay out of my own pocket to have Eric letter the book. So it wasn't even an option to break even. It was just at that point, fulfilling my obligation to the readers.
Yeah. I mean, the whole visual side is just crazy.
Yeah.
I had I had one guy who great price, fantastic work. I
Hmm.
commissioned 10 pieces from him. He turned in 5 and I really had to badger him for a month to get that 5th piece. And he was
Yeah.
gone and then I paid someone who's very well known in the CG circles $600 deposit
Hmm.
to get some work and that was in 2020. I haven't seen anything.
Oh, great.
So it's rough,
Right.
to
Yeah.
get the whole team working.
Yeah, man. It's, I mean, I'm lucky at this. Like, I think, between The Gods Fear Me and Deepwell, we've ironed enough of the kinks out of our production model. And so moving forward with The Gods Fear Me 2 and The Red Key this year, I think we'll be in a better place production wise, especially with the people that I've surrounded myself with.
Mhm.
But like to get back on topic, like those first two, even three books for like, first time, second time creators, like it's a big obligation. And yeah, sometimes you don't see everything that life is going to throw at you coming.
Yeah, for sure. And what do you think about the viability of at least the big two crowdfunding sites in terms of staying fairly neutral? Like, Kickstarter, there's always been a problem with getting
Right.
CG books onto Kickstarter. And then Indiegogo, whether people like Ethan and some of those guys who came out with their books back in 2018,
Hmm.
if they hadn't made tons of money, on those books, there's a good chance Indiegogo would have went the same way as Kickstarter.
Right.
But recently in the last week, we've seen whatever weird fight is going on between Liam Gray and John Delahose.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't understand that, but if they can get each other's books taken down,
Right.
how much longer is it going to take before people who really hate CG to figure out that same technique.
Right, figure out that right combination, that right
Yeah,
magic word phrase, right? Yeah, and then it could devolve into like a pissing match between like fans of Liam and fans of John.
sure.
And like that's why I just saw today. I commend Tug for
Mhm.
trying to like build like a bridge between the two of them and kind of mediate this stuff. Because I definitely agree with Tug that stuff. It seems like we go through drama every year and a half in CG.
Yeah.
Um, and whereas like the previous drama was I don't like you, no, I don't like you. Now this is kind of boiling over into the business side of things.
Yeah.
And I think Tug's taking the right approach of like, no, we need to like, nip this in the butt right now before it like changes the nature of what it is that we're doing.
Yeah, I mean, that's the most of the CG fights to me have just seem so unnecessary.
Yes. Yes.
And it's like really a shame. Of course, you're always going to have personalities who don't like each other, but
Hmm.
if people could have like put egos and slights aside for another year or two, could have been a lot stronger
Right.
in terms of like everybody promoting everybody's books and building the whole business up more.
Yeah. I mean, like I'm conceptually, I'm okay with where we're at now with like,
Mhm.
like think of it as like a giant umbrella, and
Yeah.
there are like little, I don't want to say cliques, but there are cliques within that
Mhm.
umbrella of like people who like hang out and promote each other, but they don't really intersect at any point.
Yeah.
Um, I'm fine with that, but yeah, yeah, this whole thing with the getting each other's campaigns taken down, it's like, guys, what are we doing? Like, you're
Yeah.
you're hurting the people that have invested. You're hurting each other, and you're hurting like your peers who could feel ripples and aftershocks from all this.
Yeah, I totally agree. And then, it puts fans in a weird position too.
Right, right. Like, what if you don't care about, and like not to even make it about Liam and John, but like just
Mhm.
fill in the blank creators. Like, what if you like both creators' work, but now there's this weird thing of like, well, am I going to give money to someone who's doing this to so and so, or maybe I'm okay with them doing it to so like it becomes like this really uncomfortable gray area that the reader should never have to think about at all.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And, I mean, we can see that there have been several people who are very prominent in CG who just self-destructed when that happened,
Right,
and they went out and they started like crapping on CG in general or, specific members that are relatively well liked. And then, that just puts a bad taste in the reader's mouth,
right,
like I have my $25. You can have my $25. All you need to do is give me a product and not piss me off while doing it. And that
right,
should be fairly easy.
right.
You know, I exchange money for goods everywhere, every day, and people manage to not piss me off. I'm not, you
Exactly.
know,
Yeah, it's like the analogy I used like I don't know about a year or two ago was all of this stuff is common to more creative industries,
yeah.
like if you were to hop in a time machine and go back to like the first decade of like the what we think of as the traditional comic industry,
Mhm, mhm.
I'm sure you would see all of this stuff. You would see
Oh, yeah.
backstabbing, people quitting, people going over across the street to the other company and blah 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 blah. You'd see all the same stuff. It's just no one knew about it because social media and this level of interaction and transparency didn't exist.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, you saw that in movies. Movies really started in New York, New Jersey, and
Right.
Edison was putting the screws to people. So that's how Hollywood got started.
Hmm. Hmm.
You could say East Coast, West Coast rap even.
Right. Right. Yeah. Exactly. I feel like that was pop culture wise the last big like seeing everything laid bare moment, and now it's
Yeah.
kind of become spit shined and highly plastic and polished. You know,
Yeah, yeah.
it was Biggie and Tupac going down that made everyone go, all right, maybe we should just like be performers.
Back
You know?
off a little bit.
Y-
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, when people took things a little too seriously.
Right. Right. So so yeah, man. Like I always want to go where the most readers are and the most
Mhm.
interested readers are. So I'm very interested in this new platform. I just like as a small to mid-level creator, like I have a hard enough time as it is building up interest in my product to begin with,
Yeah.
and then you factor in like selling people on a new platform altogether. I those are my concerns basically.
Yeah, yeah, no, I definitely agree. And I mean, so far, the only thing that I've heard that Ethan actually said about it was that, yeah, they're building one.
Right. Right.
I don't know what that means in terms of like, well, who's building one with him? Because it's oh, Mystery Men and Monsters. So Ethan Van Sciver had said on one of his streams that he's building a new crowdfunding platform, but that's all the information he gave.
Hmm.
So it's a question of, does that mean it's really just like an online store? Which I always thought was weird. His business is so large and he's selling on eBay. It just seemed a little odd to me. But also, if you're going to have the platform, like what does that mean in terms of the percentage that his platform would take?
Right.
Um, is it going to be a place that like I don't even need to think about my stuff afterwards? It will be indefinitely in demand,
Hmm.
and are they going to handle printing stuff with it too, or just the online
Right.
campaign? So
Right.
I don't know. There's a lot of interesting possible things that could happen with it.
Yeah, lots of questions. And I like at this point, I think it's still too early to like expect anything concrete.
Yeah.
I know he showed off either a prototype or conceptual stuff
Oh,
on
did
his,
he?
yeah, on a stream that he did with John Delarose. Um,
Oh, I
and
haven't
again,
seen it.
I've just been crazy busy, so I haven't been able to look into any of that stuff. Um, I'm interested, but I want to make sure that I have the biggest base available to me heading into a launch, especially like I said with the two big projects that we have coming up this year, where it's like, um, for what I'm investing personally into them, I need them to hit big, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
So we'll see, man.
All right. Um, and so recently too, I've been in a backroom Twitter chat thing,
Uh huh.
and there's a bunch of new people who are very nervous and not sure about how to get the word out about their product and everything, and they
Yeah, yeah,
seem especially nervous about getting on streams. So, as a guy who's been on a ton of shows recently,
yeah.
what do you think makes a good guest on a show?
Um, I mean, look, not everyone is going to be charismatic as like an
Mhm.
Ethan or whoever. But I do think, for lack of a better phrase, you have to have good radio voice.
Mm.
And if you're not like I know this was a thing, with my, I think of it as in terms of like graduating class.
Uh-huh.
Like it was like me, Nar, Mandy came up around the same time. Like we were kind of like wave two.
Mhm.
Um, like I know this was a thing that we all discussed back then. If you're not comfortable like being live and being able to have a spontaneous conversation and just go with it, you need to find someone on your team who is.
Yeah.
Um, because like the biggest way to shoot yourself in the foot is to go on one of these streams and be completely unengaging, Um,
Yeah, yeah, I definitely agree.
yeah, and basically like the host is pulling everything out of you and you're just giving like one or two word answers because either you're nervous or just this isn't what you do.
Yeah. So Mystery Men says you need hair, nice
Yeah.
hair.
Gotta have hair.
I will never sell anything.
Me neither, man. Me neither.
Yeah, I think you're right, and I think that there are things like if basically you are the face of your team.
Hmm.
I think that there are things that you can do. Like one of the things, occasionally people who shall not be named, come on here, or I've seen them on other streams. Like they just don't have anything to say about their own product. Like
Yeah, man.
you should be so excited to
Right.
see it. If you're the writer, you should be like, oh my god, this art is so great. I can't believe I'm finally seeing my thoughts on a
Right.
page.
Right.
And even if you have to make stuff up, I've always said, okay, like if you're asked, oh well, why did you do this style?
Right.
Either legitimately tell about it, or could be like, oh, my friend showed me this and I thought it was the greatest ever, and
Yeah. Yeah.
like
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, I've certainly been in streams with those people too, where it's like, do you even care about the project that you're promoting? Like, um, yeah, I mean, you have to be excited about your role in the project. You have to be excited and inspired about the project as a whole and everyone else that's involved. You have to be good at paying lip service to the other members of your team,
mhm.
because you don't want to come off as egotistical or like you're responsible for everything happening. I mean, it's a balancing act, and like I said, I think all of that kind of congeals into what I define as, like, radio voice.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so yeah, man. Like, um, but as far as, like, getting on streams, like if that's a thing for some of these people, I mean, that's just that's just part of the game, and you got to pay your dues. Like, you just have to, like, dive into, like, chats during streams. You have to get
Mhm.
people to know who you are, and just politely but consistently, you just have to reach out people and to people until you start hearing back.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And then, it's funny, back in the day, Clint Stoker said, if anyone ever invites you on the show, never say no.
Yeah.
I don't know if I go quite that far,
Sure.
uh, but I think that's definitely true. Anybody who wants to, anybody who's interested in talking to you and hearing your story, that's great.
Right.
Um, and even then, and I would even say look for like um, tangential shows. So like if you're making a comic, but it's like a space opera,
Right. Right.
find other groups that talk about space operas,
Yeah. Yeah.
because they'll probably be interested in a comic. Maybe they just don't know that there's any comics for them out there.
Right. Yeah, I mean, look, it's a lesson that I've had to learn. Again, I come from a very much like a punk rock do it yourself
Mhm.
background. And so, especially while I was still in the band, our motto was like we would play any show anywhere at any time. And so heading into this whole model of crowdfunding, that was my approach initially. And yeah, sometimes you have to realize when going on someone's show just isn't a good fit for either you or the type of book that you're
Yeah,
producing.
yeah. So, Mr. Men says you guys are absolutely correct. Marketing is 90% of the job.
Yep.
Yeah, that's the unfortunate reality. Is you could have the awesomest book. Maybe you got Jim Lee to draw it, but if nobody knows it's out there, you're not going to have any sales.
Yeah, and I mean, that's an excellent point, because even Jim Lee has had books canceled. Like
Yeah.
he did that Immortal Men or something under
Mhm.
DC like 3 or 4 years ago. No one even remembers what the hell I'm talking about. That's how poorly that book was marketed, and it was Jim Lee art, for like
I know,
five or
it's
six
crazy.
issues. Yeah.
Um, all right. So, when as a speaking of finding the right shows,
Yeah.
so as someone who is out there promoting his book, what kind of shows do you look for? I mean, obviously this one's clearly the best, but aside from
Obviously.
this one.
And like, to be honest, and like, I'm not puckering up or anything, but like I really have enjoyed these two appearances, man. Like, you have a really good conversational flow to the way that you host, and I've enjoyed it. Um, I've, obviously, like, being a part of CG, I reach out to everyone within the community. I have tried reaching out to, pulp and
Mhm.
fantasy channels, and like, people over on Facebook even. And I've had some success, but like, overall, the thing that I've taken away from it is, if you're crowdfunding, you have to find people who are enthusiastic specifically about crowdfunding. Like,
Yep.
sure, narrowing it down to genre helps when you
Mhm.
can, but there's a lot of people out there who just take this approach of, like, I just want to enjoy the thing that I like.
Yeah.
And I mean, my issue with that is, like, yeah, but I'm trying to make a thing that you would like, and it would then become one of the things that you like. So why wouldn't you want to help make that happen? But it's just how some people are wired. So, like, knock on that door a couple times, but if you're not getting the reception that you want, like, don't persist in it, because you're just going to make yourself and the other person miserable.
Yeah, and it seems to me too that it should be much easier,
Hmm.
um, in terms of getting those extra like genres and whatnot. Once you have several books under your belt,
Right.
because then you could say, "Oh, I did this thing that you already like. I'm trying to make something new," and then they like it sort of clicks for them a little bit more. I
Right.
think.
Yeah, I
Um,
agree with that. Um, Yeah, I mean, look, if I was a larger creator, if I had more of an established pedigree, I'm sure I could
mhm.
branch out to, like, more non-traditional shows than the ones that
Oh,
I,
sure.
like, promote on.
Hmm.
But yeah, like, if you're trying to stay laser focused and you're a new creator, like, one of the main things should be, is this channel, platform, whatever, receptive to the idea of crowdfunding?
Yeah, yeah, I definitely think so. And two, I think that anyone who watches a stream like on this channel or whatnot, they understand that like selling is part of it. So we're talking about a lot of different things, and
Mhm.
maybe they want to get in the business, so they're excited about these tips, or maybe they're just interested in pulp or
Right.
different kinds of books. But I think that you know you're absolutely right that you don't want to go on a show where people are sort of like purist and they just see you as shilling.
Right.
Like, it kind of reminds me. I don't know. Do you know the show Critical Role?
Yeah, oh, yeah, absolutely, man.
So, those guys when they started, it was friends playing D&D, which I really think it was when it started.
Yeah.
But these people were all professionals in the industry,
Mhm.
so they were able to really capitalize it and make a very high production value show. And then last year, it got out like they were making $9 million on
Yeah.
Twitch,
Yeah.
and when people are pissed that their show is on Amazon, they crowdfunded a cartoon. I think they got like uh, 11 or $12 million, and people are pissed that it's on Amazon Prime.
Right.
Because they're getting money from the Prime too, and it's like, damn guys, why are you so upset about that? Why should if they make more money on it, then they can make more seasons of this show. What's the problem?
Yeah, it's a really weird phenomena, this whole thing, not Critical Role, but, like, the way people react to success. Like,
Yeah.
like, for me personally, like, I enjoyed Critical Role for, say, like, the first maybe 2 years or so that it was
Mhm,
around.
mhm.
Like, I thought it was different, and they were obviously all professionals and really engaging and knew how to play up and ham it up. Um, but then we started heading into, like, 2015, 2016, and, like, politics started becoming a thing.
Yeah,
So I tuned out, but I didn't necessarily wish them ill.
yeah,
And when
exactly.
I saw the Netflix deal or the Amazon deal, I was like, well, clearly this isn't for me, but I'm happy that it's happening for them.
Hmm.
And yet there are so many other people that are like, why are they making so much money? It's like, because you gave it to them. Like, like
Yeah.
by supporting them and helping to promote this platform and letting them grow as a channel and as a show, like you enabled all this. And so why do you have a problem with them being successful off of the thing that they do for you?
Yeah, and there's always, even in bands, like I'm generally the kind of person who like bands as they're coming up and they're a little bit more raw, and then they hit that level of success and they're all like studio produced, and
Right.
that's when everybody else likes them. So I can to an extent understand maybe
They
people
had,
aren't so into that kind of thing anymore.
yeah.
But it's I think too that and I'm kind of curious if you've noticed this, when people start giving you money,
Uh-huh.
they like, especially when it's not like a flat sale. Like if
Hmm.
you're like, I have this comic, I will trade you the comic for cash. If it's like, hey, support me, you know, put your faith in me, your dollars in me, and
Yeah.
I'll turn out this great product. That I think that sometimes people take that a little too far. Like then they sort of make demands on you.
Right. Yeah. It's I we've certainly encountered that, especially with, the Gods Fear Me running late like it did.
Mhm.
Um again, I think this will be the running theme for tonight. Like it's a tightrope act. It's all balancing because, like you can't, the type of reader like me who what's the phrase your boy uses, fire and forget.
Uh-huh.
Like I'm that kind of backer too. Like
Yeah.
if I back something, I just that's the last time I think about it until it's in my hands.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm fine with that. Like if there are delays, if it takes a year and a half, whatever, like okay, like I make books too. I know, shit happens. Um, but I can't I can't say, well, it's okay for those buyers to be like that, but it's not okay for buyers who are like, hey, where's my book? It's not okay for them to have those concerns.
Yeah.
Like both up to a point are valid. And you just I find that transparency usually settles most of those issues. Like
Yeah.
every time someone would write and be like, where's the book? Just answer them truthfully. Like we have a leftover campaign going for the Gods Fear Me, and I haven't started fulfilling it yet because of everything that's popped up in our personal life.
Yeah.
And so someone just wrote and was like, hey, it's March, why aren't you shipping yet? And I told them, and all of a sudden, like it deflates all the tension in the interaction, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I definitely think that's one of the big mistakes I see people making in campaigns when I see things that are going on like a year and a half, 2 years,
Yeah.
and it's like you should be given updates at least once a month, like, hey, this is the problem that's going on,
Right.
here's what we've done, it's moving along. One of the best things I've seen is, some of the people who have been late like 2 years,
Hmm.
they'll do like live draw streams, or,
Right.
on other shows, they'll show what's going on. So I think people are much less angry
Yeah.
about things,
Yeah.
if they can see like, okay, it's taken a long time, but it's moving along. And if they can see like, oh yeah, okay, this quality is really good. So at the end of the day, I'm going to end up with a great product.
Yeah, I agree. Like a perfect example of that was with Deep Well. I don't know if I touched on this last time or not, but basically, um, so our artist had to take some personal time for some family issues last year, and that set us back a good 6 months,
Mhm.
unfortunately. And when he came back to the table and started working, um, there was miscommunication between what I had written in the script and what he thought I wrote in the script. And basically, it's this huge, like, there's tons of detail in every page, like these last 5 pages that he needed to produce. There's tons of detail. And when he sent me the layouts, the layouts were very loose as they are. I'm like, okay, that looks great. But what I didn't know was I wrote it that all this stuff takes place outside, and he thought that it was all interior work. So I give him the okay to move on to pencils and inks,
Mhm.
and then what he comes back with is like completely wrong. Um, and so he had to like redraw these really time consuming, intricate pages all over again. And, like this was like a month and a half ago, and I tried tap dancing around it at first, but then I was like, no, I should be honest. And I just posted the update and I was like, hey, I know the book's overdue. I know it should be done in terms of production by now, but here's what happened. And almost everybody was fine with it.
Yeah. So, World Comics Review. Name me no pie stained names. Well, speaking of Ethan specifically, like, he, first of all, I have no idea all the stuff that he's into
Yeah,
because he's clearly moving into other realms that are not only comic books. He's clearly moving it to closer to like a Todd McFarlane
right,
entertainment production company.
right,
And let's say, you were in a position where not only could you make a living selling comic books, but there were people who were interested in other products like the toys he's doing. Maybe he's got some other things in the work. He's publishing other people's
other
books
people.
now,
Yeah,
and all that takes time away from making an actual comic. So, I'm not going to throw stones and say, and give him a lot of crap for being late. I
right.
mean, I kind of have questions like, does he still want to be a comic book artist or does he want to go the more McFarlane route? Like, when was the last time McFarlane drew an actual book?
Right.
Sometime in the
Yeah,
90s,
yeah, and
So,
and and I think as Ethan gets closer to Todd's age, I think it's
yeah.
definitely going to be that thing of like he'll draw an issue of whatever every like 2 or 3 years,
Yeah.
Um, but no, like I know Ethan is one of the main faces of CG, so of course he's always a point of comparison. And this isn't, what I'm about to say isn't because like
Oh, sorry,
he's
you're going out there.
uh-oh, am I good?
Yeah, I cannot hear you.
Uh-oh, at all.
Nope, not at all. Your audio just dropped like that.
Okay.
All right. So, in the meantime, let's head back over to Long Shadow. We'll get Mike back in a minute. So, as you can see, Mandy Summers. Can't wait for this one, Mike. Looks great. So, it's got Mandy Summers' seal of approval. But Long Shadow, a high fantasy pulp novel, which, there we go. So, Long Shadow, who is an orc detective. So it's kind of an interesting. Oh,
All right, can you hear me now?
no.
Okay, I'm gonna restart. So
Okay. Be back in 1 second, folks. But so even though it is an illustrated novel, meaning it is not a proper comic book, lots of pages just with words, but then other nice pages like, I mean, come on. This is great, right? So lots of fantastic art, and we'll get Mike to talk about this here in a second when he comes back. Hopefully, hopefully he comes back. So in the chat, are you guys interested in only comics, or would you guys be amenable? Would you maybe be interested in an illustrated novel? Something that is definitely more words, but also has some illustrations in there. All right, dead air. Well, give me 1 second. We'll take a look at that video. Hey, how's it going?
Hey man, how's it going? Am I coming through at all?
Oh, sorry, man.
Oh no.
Anything.
Okay. I apologize. Hang on one second.
Nope. Oh no. All right. So, World Comic Review. I prefer story papers, pulps to comics. Actually. Oh, interesting. Mainly collect British ones from the 1890s to just after World War II. Well, in theory, not that easy. Oh, you're living in Japan. Very cool. Uh oh. Wait a minute. Is it me? Hey, how's it going?
Good. Can you hear me?
Okay. I cannot hear you, but hang on one second. I think
Okay.
I can hear you, which makes it seem like it's my problem.
Okay.
Give me a second. I'll change. I will change headphones.
Sure. Hey, everybody. So, if I'm coming through and you guys can hear me all right, thanks for checking out the trailer. Thanks for hanging out with us. And if you haven't backed already, we hope that you'll consider checking out Long Shadow. We've got just under 2 weeks left, and we'd love to have each and every one of you come along for the ride.
Okay.
How about now?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh man, it was me. I'm sorry.
Okay. Like I was saying before the show, I was freaking out, like, oh, not again.
Uh, all right. Sorry about that.
That's all right.
So while you were away, we were just going over Long Shadow a little bit there.
Yeah. I caught the trailer.
All right. Cool. Um, so let's talk about Long Shadow a little bit.
Sure, man. Sounds like a plan.
So you still got a lot of interesting levels. Why don't you run us through it real quick?
You got it. So, first and foremost is the swag bag, which we do for all of our campaigns. The swag bag gets you a copy of the book, a copy of the prequel novella, A Murder in Amberglass. It gets you a trading card of Long Shadow. You'll be getting a print of the map that everybody seems to be crazy about. You'll be getting a Long Shadow sticker, and you'll also be getting a mini poster of the cover. The digital edition's pretty self-explanatory.
I'm having an issue because I
Uh-oh.
cannot hear you again.
Oh
Sorry.
no.
Uh, okay,
All right. How's that?
that's much better. Sorry,
Excellent.
such an unprofessional host.
No, it's all good, man. Again, I was convinced it was me.
All right, so the swag bag.
Yeah. Swag bag I covered, and where we left off was I was saying the digital edition's pretty self-explanatory.
Mhm.
Then we've got the main cover by Jeff Lasley, and we've got the alternate cover by Preston Acevedo.
Yeah, that's a great image.
Yeah, my only direction to him was go full Frazetta.
Nice.
Yeah. So what else? And then you can get both covers together. We sold out of the physical editions of the Chibi pack, so now all that's up for grab is the digital edition. This is speaking of Mandy Summers. This is something I blatantly stole from Mandy. She's absolutely correct when she says that every campaign is someone's potentially first exposure to you as a company. And so what we're going to do is every campaign there will be a chibi pack, and we'll just keep adding books to that stack so you can get all caught up in one perk.
Nice.
Yeah.
So not to derail the presentation too much,
No
but
problem.
like at $50 for 3 books, that's fairly reasonable.
Mhm.
How would you do the chibi packs like once you have like 10 books? Because
Oh,
the cost seems like it would really be quite high.
yeah. I mean, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. I'll try to make it reasonable, but yeah, I mean, if you're getting 10 books of ours and most of them are like still first printings, which this is the last one for the first printing of Samurai and Dinosaurs. Like everything from here on will be second printing.
Mhm.
It's going to cost, but again, I'll try to make it somewhat of a decent offer
All right.
once we start getting that high.
So then you still have some of the premium swag left.
Yeah, yeah. So we've got the premium swag. We've got original art from the book for sale. The original art from the books are labeled according to like what scene it is, and the premium swags are you get everything from the standard swag bag, but you also get one of the character design pieces that I did for Jeff to work off of.
Nice.
And then yeah, we get into like the original art for the covers. We've got a drawn-in tier where you can be one of the past victims of the Prince of Echoes. And then, yeah, we've got Matt Burke's pinup. We've got the original art for A Murder in Amberglass and the original art for both covers.
Nice. So let me see. You have about 2 weeks or 12
Yeah,
days.
yeah, a little under 2 weeks now.
A little under 2 weeks. So if anybody watching this is thinking about it, now would be a good time to back it. Make
Absolutely.
sure you get what you want, especially if you want any of the original art.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the original art for the map, I was flattered that sold out really quick. So there was that, and yeah, like I'm waiting for Preston's piece to sell. In auctions, his pieces can go for upwards of like $800. So I'm sure some Preston collector is going to stumble on this campaign and probably be very interested in that one.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
So a little bit earlier, we had a question from Mystery Men. Have you made contact with Noctis Draven?
I'll be honest, I don't even know who that is.
Yeah, I don't know who that is either.
I will make note. Does he have a Twitter handle?
I don't know. If you're still here, Mystery Men, does Noctis have a Twitter handle? So I don't know. I've never heard of the guy, but I wonder if he's more like a general entertainment or if he's also a comic guy.
Right. Well, I found somebody going by that name on Twitter, and I'm following them now. So we'll see how that plays out.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. So you've been here and there and almost everywhere. What do you have lined up for the next 12 days?
So I'm gonna, in about an hour, I'll be hanging out with Bancroft. Super excited for that. It's the first time I've been on with him in like over a year. So yeah, it'll be good to catch up with him. And then next week, it's going to be anybody and everybody that'll have me on. I'm in early talks with Red Gaze. I'm seeing if Mandy will have any free time or not. There's a couple long shots from some of the bigger voices out there. We'll see if they have the free time or not. But yeah, like circling it, all the way back. I'm in that like I'll play any gig anytime mode. I'm hustling hard to get this thing funded.
Very cool. All right. So anybody who's watching still, head over to Bancroft's channel in about an hour.
Yep.
And catch a bunch of stuff there. I like his show, but I very rarely get to watch it live.
Yeah. Same thing.
Yeah. He's a guy I'd like to get on one of these days.
Yeah, he's he's great for conversations, but He's also a really solid writer and a really solid illustrator as well. I dig the dude.
Yeah, I finally got the Lucent,
Oh, good.
the first one, and I noticed he's got the, what do you call it, the sign up page for the second one out.
Right, right.
So well, hopefully that'll be something there. All right. So any last thoughts? Any words of wisdom? Other than buy long.
Yeah, just reiterating what I was saying to the chat while we were dealing with the headphone issue. We're heading into the final, 11, 10-ish days left on this thing, and we're 2/3 of the way there. I'd love to have the book funded before, the final night of the campaign. And if you're a fan of fantasy, if you're a fan of noir, if you long for the days of un-PC, action adventure, dash of hyperviolence, if you long for those days, Long Shadow is built specifically for you, and we hope all of you listening will come along for the ride.
Very cool. All right. So anyone who hasn't, go back Long Shadow. As for me, I've got a bunch of people coming up. Saturday, we've got Fischoso promoting his book. I don't have a lot of details, but it looks interesting. It's about a clown who's an anti-hero to get revenge for something. But we'll find out. Tuesday, Tail End Studio is back to talk about Cobalt, the second issue of Cobalt, which should be pretty darn awesome. I have Miss Serena, who is promoting her book. She goes by Magic Gal on Twitter, Magic Gal Media. Her book Black Rhapsody, and 2 Saturdays from now, on 2 Sundays on the 20th, I am going to have Chloe the Cartographer. She makes a lot of maps for different tabletop role-playing games. She's been published some D&D stuff, and we're going to talk about RPGs and how maps can really influence a story.
Nice.
All right, so thanks everyone. If you haven't subscribed, subscribe, and we'll see everyone soon.
All right.